Hey guys, MoiDawg here, and today we'll be going over the medic class in squad. As a medic, you are the lifeline of your squad, and you'll often find yourself in the middle of the action, running around trying to keep your team in the fight. In this video, we'll go over the medic class as a whole, how to best use your kit, how to position yourself in a real game of squad, and some more tips and tricks to make you a better medic and keep your squad alive. But before we dive in, I do want to remind everyone that I stream a lot of squad on Twitch, at twitch.tv/MoiDawg. I squad lead, run vehicles, and play practically every kit in the game. And on viewer game days, I even lock a squad and squad lead for you guys for an afternoon of gaming. The live streams are a lot of fun, so I hope to see you there. And if you still haven't picked up squad or are looking to get some other tactical shooters, make sure to check out my official game store at MoiDawg.gg, where your purchase supports me directly. The medic is one of those kits that most people suggest new players to play, but I would argue that a good medic is one who is familiar with game mechanics and how a typical firefight in squad breaks out. That isn't to say that if you're a new player you should avoid medic, but it's a lot harder than simply sitting back and healing. We're going to cover everything you need to know to be a good medic in squad, whether you're brand new to the game or a veteran, and that all begins with your kit. In squad, medics are the only players who can have more than 2 bandages, and when you're fully armed, you will have 9 bandages, which should always be taken advantage of. In addition, you will have your medic pouch, which you can use to heal yourself or your teammates, as well as your rifle, a pistol, and 4 smoke grenades. Like other kits, the rest of your loadout depends on whether you are a Medic 1 or a Medic 2. As a close quarters kit, Medic 1 will always give you a grenade and a set of binoculars, while you will generally sacrifice that grenade for a longer range optic if you select Medic 2. However, this does slightly change depending on the faction. On the left are our Medic 1 kits, and on the right is Medic 2. Starting with Medic 1, as you can see, Russia, MEA, Militia, and Insurgents have iron sights, while the US, UK, and Canada have optics. When we take a look at Medic 2, however, we do see that you will trade in your grenade for a much more powerful optic when playing as the Russians, US, UK, and MEA. Canada, Irregular Militia, and Insurgents, however, still have a grenade as Medic 2, which does make them a bit more powerful if you do end up in close quarters fighting. In general, however, I would almost always pick the Medic 2 if it's available due to the better optics, since a lot of the time you should be a bit further back while your riflemen push up closer to the enemy. However, this is ultimately whatever you feel comfortable with. I don't want to spend too much time going over each weapon and what rifle to pick for each map, since a medic's most important tool is the rest of their kit, so if you do have any questions on what you should be using depending on the faction or map you're playing, I'd highly recommend checking out my Rifleman Guide, which breaks down weapon choice, and it really goes in depth for each weapon and their corresponding optic. When it comes to medic, most people simply say, stay behind your squad, revive, and heal. And although this might not necessarily be bad advice, there is so much more to it. You'll want to position yourself roughly in the middle of your squad, as oftentimes the players up front or in the back will be caught out by enemy fire. This also means that if you're attacking a position, you shouldn't be the one leading the charge. Let your squad push up and then follow. Keep yourself behind cover during firefights, and if it's a little too hot, you might want to stop peeking and instead plan on how you can get one of your teammates up. You'll also notice that you can see various indicators for health. The blood drop indicates that a player is currently bleeding out, with the remainder of this circle showing how much health he has left. If a player is down, this dotted line shows just how much time has already passed, with the solid line indicating how much time he has left until he is forced to give up and respawn. Additionally, this medic symbol here shows you the current amount of health that player has left, with red being low and green being high. You can also open up your map and get a feel as to where you're needed most. And although you can't see your teammates' health from this view, the indicators are usually a good idea as to where you should reposition to. If someone is bleeding, they'll need a bandage to stop that bleeding before you can use your med pouch and heal them up. If they're down, you'll need to revive them with that same bandage in order to start the healing process. As mentioned before, as a medic, you're equipped with 9 bandages. That's 7 more than any other player on your team. And as a medic, you'll be able to revive twice as fast as anyone else. While your teammates will spend 17 seconds reviving someone, you can do it in only 7 seconds, which is incredibly important when it comes to getting players up and fighting. When you're looking to revive someone, you need to remember that in this moment where you're alive and they're down, you are are more important than they are. This might come off a little mean, but it's true. And if you risk yourself and you get killed trying to pick someone up who isn't behind cover, or there's still enemy shooting in the area, you and your team will be worse off. For that reason, the first step in picking up a friendly player is making sure it's clear. But oftentimes people get tunnel vision, especially as medics. Use local comms and ask the following: what killed you? What direction were they? How many are there? And how much time do you have before you bleed out? If there's still enemy in the area, my first priority is to obviously take care of the threat and then worry about reviving if they have plenty of time left. Tell the person not to give up and that you're trying to kill the enemy before you pick them up. Reassuring them that you see that they're down and you will get to them will prevent them from pressing that give up button. Once you've revived the person, swap to your medic pouch and heal them up. I typically like to fall back and get behind cover and in an area away from where that person went down to make sure we don't get killed by whatever knocked your teammate out in the first place. When you are healing, make sure to tell the other person to watch out or stay gun up in order to prevent the enemy from pushing you and taking you both out by surprise. Nothing is worse than putting in the work to revive and heal someone only for your friendly to turn around and stare right at you as you get flanked because nobody was keeping an eye out. What just happened? We had 4 people! It's also important to know who can and can't be saved. We'll go over the use of smoke here later in the video, but unless a player is completely in cover or you can create some sort of concealment in order to get to them, it's okay to tell someone that they can't be revived and to give up if it's going to get you killed. This is common for maps like Narva or Kohat, where you'll have wide open streets or hilltops which can be incredibly deadly. Put yourself first in these situations and know that you'll save more tickets by staying alive. When you have more than one casualty, this is where things get a bit more complicated and you'll also have to learn how to triage. If you show up to an area and there are multiple people down and injured, make sure to prioritize those that are close to running out of their time on their revive timer. I know that it takes me 7 seconds to revive, so as long as I get to a player with roughly 10 seconds left on their timer, I should be able to pick them up. Reassure these players that you're there and currently bandaging them, as I've had people give up when they really didn't need to. Additionally, if you're not aware, when you are revived, you have practically 0 health, and any damage done will get you back into that give up screen. You also don't have any stamina when you're first picked up, making it extremely difficult to shoot since you cannot steady your weapon and you'll have endless weapon sway. Whereas a single casualty would result in us picking the player up and then full healing them, multiple casualties require us to revive and move in order to get as many guns back up as possible. We can do this by reviving and then tapping the player with our medic pouch before moving on to the next down person. By beginning the healing process and tap healing with our med pouch, we bring back the player's stamina. This will regen and allow them to steady their weapon and have accurate shots, in addition to now being able to sprint and move from cover to cover. Now they can move out and take position to accurately prevent the enemy from pushing back into the area. Repeat reviving and tap healing until all players are up, and then go back around and heal them all the way up individually. This might seem a little bit counterintuitive at first, but more people up and looking around for the enemy is much more useful than one person who's fully healed. Additionally, this might seem obvious, but if you are in a situation where you have multiple down players and one of them is a medic, pick the medic up first so he can start reviving and healing as well. Although we now know how to best pick up down players and heal them up, most of the time it's not as easy as simply walking over and reviving somebody. Usually they are in areas which are still dangerous for you, so we also need to know how to get those down players behind cover or conceal an area in order to pick them up safely. This is where dragging and smoke come into play. To start off, you can drag a player by pressing F at either the nape of the neck or their ankles. You must be crouching, and any sprinting, standing, proning, or shooting will automatically drop the player and perform whatever action you were doing. This mechanic can seem a little finicky at first, so I definitely practice finding that sweet spot on players if it's relatively safe to do so. When it comes to dragging, I like to use it if I only have to move a player a short distance, typically anywhere within 5 to 10 meters. This might seem a little short, but at this distance you should be able to drag people inside buildings, behind cover, or off the top of a hill. Any more than that and you'd be better off laying prone and reviving in the time that it would have taken you to slowly drag them to safety. Even even though it might look really cinematic. If someone is down right outside of a building, reviving them at that door frame will most likely result in them just getting shot again, so quickly dragging them indoors will prevent a wasted bandage. If you do think you should drag someone behind cover but you're still taking some fire, I sometimes ask a rifleman or other teammate to do it instead and have them drag to me, ensuring that if an enemy is still looking this way, I won't be killed. It seems selfish, but during moments like this, you staying alive with your bandages and med pouch is so much more important. Another part of your kit that you need to take advantage of is your smoke. Medics receive 2 white smoke and 2 colored smoke, and although I often see people using smoke when trying to pick up other downed players, oftentimes it isn't used that correctly. Smoke is a powerful tool. When tossed, it takes about 10 to 20 seconds to completely fill the area and then lasts for about a minute longer. Like a normal grenade, you can throw it overhand by left clicking or underhand it by right clicking. If I'm trying to use it for concealing a downed player nearby, I will typically underhand it so I keep it close. However, what you might not realize is that how the smoke fills is actually dependent on the grenade you use. The Americans, British, Canadians, and MEA use the M18 smoke grenade, while the Russians, irregular militia, and insurgents use the RDG-2. They both conceal areas, however the direction at which they fill is actually very different. The M18 smoke flows down the body of the grenade, where the RDG-2 flows out both ends evenly. They both cover roughly 10 meters in area, but if you don't account for the type of grenade you're using, you may not cover the area you intended to. Now, this is a pretty straightforward process for the RDG-2 since you just have to toss it where you want it, but when using the M18, you really need to make sure you position it so that it fills properly. With the M18, I make sure that the smoke grenade lands to the left of what I'm trying to cover, as this will ensure it fills in the right direction. If you need it to flow the opposite way, you'll actually need to physically turn around and toss it so that the top of the grenade is now facing right. This is important to know not just for concealing down players and reviving, but also moving around the map. When moving over open areas, make sure you are actually covering what you intend to. Most people use smoke incorrectly, which creates areas where the enemy still can see and shoot. Let's take this area here for example. We need to move across this opening to get to some people and revive them, but there's enemy watching over it. Most players will toss a smoke over the HESCO blocks and then run. However, this might not work if you're using the M18 smoke grenade. While the RDG-2 will do a pretty good job no matter where it lands, with the M18 it's actually safer to throw the smoke behind the HESCO and then allowing it to fill the space. By doing this, you can control where the smoke lands, and once full, you can now back up and run across safely. When moving in larger open areas, you'll also need to make sure the smoke grenades don't hit anything that can cause it to bounce, roll, and land awkwardly, which will result in changing the direction of where the smoke will fill. Let's take this intersection in Narva. On the north side, we see a row of sandbags and an MG emplacement. We want to cross the street from east to west, and the only way to do so is by throwing smoke. A lot of players will throw smoke directly in front of them, which will allow the enemy plenty of space to see and still take a shot if there's openings. Additionally, as we just mentioned, if you're not careful, the smoke can hit things like the curb and bounce, resulting in giant gaps in the smoke. While some people may make it across, this is definitely not the ideal situation. Instead, try and throw the smoke as close to the enemy as possible. Wait until the smoke fills and then run across. As you can see, these smokes are no longer covering an entire open road, but are instead just covering the enemy position itself. When in doubt, if you use the smoke in a way which requires you to run through it and out the other side in order to get to safety, you used it wrong. The last thing you want to do is blind yourself, so make sure and think for a second before you throw your grenade. Now that we know how to best use the tools in a medic's kit, here are some additional tips to make you more effective. If someone is in a firefight and gets shot and begins to bleed, tell them to keep shooting and that you'll bandage them instead. This will allow them to focus on the enemy they're currently engaged with without having to drop their rifle and break contact. Oftentimes, they'll have plenty of health left, so reassure them that they're good and that you're handling it. You'll also want to tell players to save their bandages for revives if you're nearby as well. Each player gets 2 bandages, and the common phrase is one for me and one for you. Try and manage your teammates' bandage use by using yours for revives and theirs for their own bleeding. This will also ensure that after a firefight, whoever is left should have at least 1 bandage and can pick you up when you go down. Additionally, take advantage of your rifleman. Look around, and if you do see a rifleman, make sure to always top up on your bandages. Bandages cost 5 ammo, and with a rifle bag carrying 100 ammo, at the most, you can replenish 20 of your bandages. This is a huge force multiplier, so always be keeping a lookout. Tell people not to press the call for medic button if you're in range to use local comms. Many players see that someone is getting close to them and will press this button to remind their team that they need a pickup. Unfortunately, this usually tells the enemy team that there is someone nearby who is trying to help them, and you will quickly get things like grenades and incoming fire if you press this button. Tell them to be quiet and that you're on the way. Most times, using 2 medics to heal 1 person is never a good use of time, and if you do see a medic currently healing a person, try to focus on others. Open your map and see what's around and how you can better use your bandages and your med pouch. Additionally, don't waste time healing friendly medics, as they can take care of themselves. When you are reviving, try and place the person you're picking up between you and the enemy. More often than not, the enemy is still looking at where that person went down, and it's better to revive behind that person, and then give them clear directions on where to move when they do get picked up. I often tell them to slowly back up towards me after they're revived so that way they get out of the danger area. As we mentioned earlier, although it is important to do your job as a medic, you can't do anything if you're dead. Don't jump on emplacements or do logi runs. Although it can be fun jumping on an MG, riding in an open top MAT-V, or using a tow, these are surefire ways to get yourself killed. Leave these things for your teammates, and if a squad leader or someone else asks you to do a logi run, remind them that you can't, because you're the medic and you should be up with your team. Finally, don't forget that you're still infantry. Sometimes you can't think like a medic and instead you need to think like a rifleman. Don't forget that you have just as much firepower as the next person, and don't limit yourself to simply running around with bandages and the medic pouch. Keep your gun up, and only when you intend on healing or bandaging should you swap to these items. If you do get jumped without your gun, you'll most likely die before you can swap to your rifle, so don't get caught out. Additionally, if you are close quarters and do run out of ammo, remember that you have a pistol, and it's always quicker swapping to that pistol than reloading. Well, that just about covers everything you need to know to be a good medic in squad. It's an extremely rewarding role and one of the few that every squad needs in order to be successful. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more squad videos, and if you have any further questions or have a good tip of your own, make sure to drop a comment below. I'd also like to thank those patrons out there who support me on Patreon and help make these guides a reality. I absolutely love making these videos, and I can't thank you guys enough. But that's it for me. Good luck out there, medics, and until next time, peace.
At me again, because I don't see it.
Southwest.